Good morning guys, so it's another day in the live video and I'm gonna be sussing out the iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro. Battery percentage at the moment is 16 Pro is at 91% and the 15 Pro is at 95%. So I set them out to 95 as the max charge limit just to preserve battery life.
Every moment tonight will led me to you. Every single time you look at me, I lose it too. Why don't you come sit next to me? Let things happen naturally, like it used to be. I don't wanna go and waste another day, mess it up again, lost in my way. I'll be the one to have the highest price to pay. If I make it home tonight, may I hold you one last time? Let me hold you one last time. What if it's too late for me now? What if you're gone to someone else, so we can never be the same? How can I make up for my sins? Now I'm lonely and it kills me. Can you hear me, babe? I'm lonely. I know you don't wanna talk, but just pick up the phone. We could go for a walk, talk about the things we know. Why don't you come sit next to me? Let things happen naturally, like it used to be. I don't wanna go and waste another day, mess it up again, lost in my way. I'll be the one.
What's up guys, so I've been using the iPhone 15 Pro for about a month now, and throughout that period I've tested a bunch of stuff extensively against the 15 Pro. So in today's video I'll show you guys how the camera, battery and performance compare against the 15 Pro, as well as some of the settings I've found to be really helpful. For those who are still on the fence whether to buy the 16 Pro or not, stick till the end because I've got some really interesting findings that will most likely help you with that choice. That aside, guys, I've got some really sad news I'll be telling you a little later in the video. Sad news aside, I've got a bunch of stuff lined up for the day, obviously starting with the gym, then I'm gonna organize my custom PC components, do a bit of gardening, wash the car, then call it a day. By the way, a good chunk of this video has been shot on the iPhone 16 Pro, and as we speak, I'm currently using the front camera, which to be honest, has really come a long way. And if you'd ask me, it's going to be really hard for the average consumer to tell apart what's been shot on the front or back camera, especially when you throw in good lighting. The 15 Pro is also pretty decent, and again, just like the 16 Pro, in good lighting, it's really hard to tell apart for the average consumer. And if you happen to be one of those people who cares about specs, both of them come with 12 megapixel front cameras. So today I'll be doing chest, shoulders and a little bit of upper back, and throughout the workout I'll compare the different features of the 16 Pro to the 15 Pro. First up was the bench press, and I decided to shoot vertical video while doing my pyramid sets, and I tested all the focal lengths. As you can see, comparing the 16 Pro to the 15 Pro, you can't tell them apart when using the main 1x camera, and when I switched to the ultra wide lens, I could straight away tell the difference between the two by simply looking at how the 15 Pro looked slightly grainier. When I switched to the 2x, it was hard to tell them apart, especially under the right lighting, but where lighting isn't on point, the footage on the 15 Pro appears a bit grainy. Speaking of grainy, the video on the 15 Pro was a lot grainier, especially when I adjusted to the 5x zoom, which by the way is the focal length you get with the 16 Pro straight out of the box.
While on the subject of video, like we all know, sound is 50% of the viewing experience, and this is another area the 16 Pro gets a nod over the 15 Pro, and for a few good reasons. Reason number one is the 16 Pro comes with studio quality mics which provide a much lower noise floor, and this results in true to life audio with reduced noise when shooting your videos, and it gets even more interesting. With the addition of the audio mix feature, you can now adjust your audio to whichever style suits you. Case in point, there's all sorts of noise here at the gym with people running at the cardio machines, the music playing, people switching weights, and the list goes on. Without changing anything, this is the standard mode. Then when I switch to in frame, you only get to hear what's in frame. So when I switch the camera to the other side, my voice kind of gets drowned in the background like that. As for studio mix, it removes all the background noise, so when I speak, it sounds as though I'm in a studio. For the creators and filmmakers out there, this kind of works the same way as Adobe Audio Enhancer or Castle. That aside, cinematic makes it feel as though you're watching a movie. Case in point, you can still hear a bit of the background music, the way it's being knocked around, but my voice stays on top of the sound mix. Again, if you'd ask me, they're all excellent features, but for the average consumer, they're a bit of an overkill. The people who will benefit most are the creators and filmmakers out there. So if you've got the iPhone 15, you're not missing out on anything. Okay, so I'll finish off with shoulders and back, then we'll talk about photography styles, tone, and camera control in just a little bit. Alright guys, so that's my workout for today. Time to head back home, have a shower, then make some food and talk about the other features as well. So I'm finally back home and I'm gonna quickly have a shower, then after that make a really good feed. But before that, let's talk about the IP68 rating of both the 16 and 15 Pro. Now, if you didn't know, the iPhone 16 Pro and 15 Pro have an IP68 rating, and that means they are water and dust resistant. But there's a bit of a catch. You cannot do that on a water paddle that's more than 2 meters deep and longer than 30 minutes. Okay, so today's brunch is gonna be one of my favorites. So I'm gonna have some steaks, eggs, taro, and some veggies, which coincidentally is gonna be the perfect time to get into photography styles with some mouth-watering food snaps. By the way guys, how do you like your steak for those who have meat? I like mine medium well done.
As the steak grills, this would be the perfect time to show you guys the 16 Pro's ability to shoot 4K at 120Hz. I mean, just look at how impressive that video looks. I like the fact that you can also do this in ProRes log, then color grade it in post. The 15 Pro on the other hand can only do 4K at 60Hz as well as shoot ProRes log, which isn't bad by any means, especially when you consider the fact that the average consumer for the most part would need footage shot in ProRes log and 4K at 120Hz during a family gathering. For the creators though, that comes in clutch, and the fact that you can further adjust the frame rate after the fact makes it quite handy.
Are you guys able to tell which photo was taken by the 16 Pro and which one was taken by the 15 Pro? Let me know in the comments.
Honestly speaking, under the right lighting, it's hard to tell them apart, even though Apple says the 16 Pro comes with a new 48 megapixel fusion camera. Where you'll be able to know the difference is with the shutter lag. The 16 Pro's shutter lag is almost non-existent compared to the 15 Pro when taking photos, and as you can see, the 15 Pro tends to load up a tad bit before the next, and the best explanation to this is the 16 Pro comes with a new and faster 2nd gen quad pixel sensor. When you switch to the ultra wide camera, again, under the right circumstances, it's hard to tell them apart, but when you zoom in, you'll see the 15 Pro image is a bit more grainy compared with the 16 Pro, and that's because the 16 Pro has a new 48 megapixel ultra wide camera. Moving on to the telephoto camera, the 16 Pro out of the box comes with a 5x zoom, whereas the 15 Pro comes with a 3x zoom. Adjusting both of them to 3x, you can clearly see the 16 Pro is better, and when I scale it up to 5x, the 16 Pro still comes out tops for obvious reasons.
With all the photos snapped, this would be the perfect time to talk about photography styles and tone as I walk into the office. Alright, before we dive deeper into photography styles and tone, I'll give you guys a bit of an update on the battery front. And the 16 Pro is currently at 30%. And the 15 Pro is currently at 25. So obviously that's not going to be enough, so I'll have to juice them up a little bit to finish the remainder of the video.
Now, for the longest time, iPhone photos have been copying a lot of slack because of how they tend to appear a little bit over-processed, and I touched on this a little earlier. So Apple's solution to this was to give the user the flexibility to create a photo that tickles their fancy, hence the introduction of photography styles and tone. So if Apple's style of photos doesn't quite suit your style, you can now pick a preset you prefer or manually adjust the hue to your liking, then snap the photo.
Now, if you'd ask me, this is the one feature I think the average consumer is going to find really useful, but I doubt many people are going to utilize it.
I might be wrong, but just to add some context behind that conclusion, over the past 1 month, I've been to a few gatherings and I saw a few people with the standard iPhone 16, which has most of these features, but I don't recall at any given point seeing anyone going through the presets or adjusting the hue before snapping a photo. What most people did was get their phones out and snapped a photo, whether it was a selfie or just a normal photo.
I don't know, maybe it's going to take time before people get used to it.
Speaking of people taking time before getting used to something, the camera control would be another new iPhone 16 feature that will take a while before the average consumer gets the hang of it. Personally, I like the idea of accessing all the features I just talked about through this touch capacitive button, especially when in landscape mode, as it feels quite natural, although for the left-handed people, it won't feel as natural. Again, this is another area the 15 Pro can only be seen in the rear view mirror, but even then, it's a very minor win because the traditional way of using the camera works perfectly fine, and when you switch to portrait mode, camera control kind of feels odd because the natural positioning of the index finger is just a tad bit higher. That aside, if you'd ask me, it's not really game changing, and like mentioned earlier, the average consumer will most likely use the normal camera interface if need be. That pretty much wraps up the camera comparison between the 15 Pro and 16 Pro.
Okay, so remember the start of the video when I said I've got some sad news? Well, this is the last video I'll be shooting at this house. And I say it's sad news because this house is the birthplace of this channel, and over the years you guys have tagged along and helped it to get to where it is now. I know close to 4,000 subs may not sound as much, but I'm super grateful to each and every one of you who watches my videos whenever I post them here on YouTube, Instagram and TikTok, because through the feedback you guys give me, sometimes really harsh, I constantly iterate to make the content better, and it's led to this bittersweet moment. And I say bittersweet because the support you guys have been giving me has made me take a really bold step and get a bigger place. Not to mention, thanks to you guys, brands have been sending me stuff to review, but I'm kind of running out of storage. So even though leaving this place is a sad moment, I'm excited about what the new place has to offer, and that's the sweet part of this sad moment. Honestly speaking, I can't wait to tag you guys along as the new chapter starts in a few weeks. For those who are watching and haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because I've got setup makeover, setup tours and lots of tech reviews coming your way. Okay, let's now talk about the 15 Pro and 16 Pro's performance.
When it comes to performance, the iPhone 16 Pro boasts the A18 Pro chip, while the 15 Pro runs on the A17 Pro chip, and here's where things get interesting. Over the last 1 month or so, I've been using both phones side by side, testing them in real-world scenarios, and you know what? The difference might not be what you expect. Sure, with everyday tasks like opening apps, the 16 Pro usually has a slight edge, but there were moments where the 15 Pro actually took the lead. As for the camera performance, this is one area the 16 Pro has a slight edge over the Pro, mostly because of the new camera features we've talked about, as well as the faster sensor, which makes the 16 Pro a tad bit faster when snapping photos. Again, when you relate it to the average consumer, it's not really a deal breaker, as very rarely you'd find yourself snapping multiple photos at the same time, and if you happen to do so, I doubt this would be a major concern. For the mobile gamers out there, you can play AAA titles like Resident Evil Village, which can also be done on the 15 Pro. The only difference is the 16 Pro will load a little bit faster by a millisecond or two, obviously because it comes with a GPU that's 20% faster. Now, to sum up the performance, if you happen to be one of those people who's wondering if the performance gap is that wide, honestly speaking, it's closer than you think, but here's the catch. The 15 Pro tends to heat up, especially when multitasking or wirelessly charging, and while hitting issues when wirelessly charging aren't new to iPhones, this could be a deal breaker for some.
Speaking of deal breakers, the struggling of my M1 Mac Mini has become one, and that's because over the last couple of months it's been struggling with power and graphic intense tasks like video editing. So my solution to this is to build a custom PC, which by the way would be the perfect time to show you guys some of the components I got.
For the graphics card, I got the ASUS ProArt RTX 4080. Then for the CPU, I chose the Intel Core i9-14900K. For the motherboard, I went with the Z790 from the ProArt line of ASUS. The AIO and PSU are both from ASUS. The RAM sticks are from Trident's Z5 line, and the SSDs are the 990 Pros from Samsung.
Once the setup makeovers are done, I'll be building the custom PC, so don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you don't miss. And if you kind of like some behind the scenes, I'll also be posting that on my socials, so you can follow if you want.
The PC build aside, I'm sure most of you are keen to know how the batteries have fared so far. Just to give you guys an update, the 16 Pro drained to the low 30s and the 15 Pro to the mid 20s, so I had to use the map to be able to finish the day. As for the battery health, the 16 Pro is obviously at 100% because it's just a month old with a 24 cycle count, whereas my 15 Pro is at 93%, which is pretty good with close to 400 cycle counts. Quick tip here, set your phones to charge to 90 or 85%, as this will save your phone's overall battery health. Going into detail, if you remember a few months after launch, the 15 Pro had overheating issues, and while a software update solved that issue, Apple's long-term solution to it was to change the chassis to a machined one, which works in tandem with the graphite-clad aluminum substructure to maximize thermal capacity, resulting in a 20% improvement in sustained performance, and this in turn ensures CPU and GPU intensive tasks run smoothly without overheating. Now, over the past 1 month, the 16 Pro has done well apart from when wirelessly charging, which has been an issue with iPhones for quite a while now. Speaking of wirelessly charging, the 16 Pro got a slight bump in wattage, moving up from 15 watts to 25 watts, and this bump also trickled to wired charging, with the wattage moving up from 45 watts from the 20 watts we saw in the previous Gen 15 Pros. As for the battery sizes, the 16 Pro bumping their size to 6.3 inches obviously means a bigger battery, and when you throw in the efficiency of Apple Silicon, the 16 Pro's battery lasts longer than that of its predecessor, coming in at 27 hours of video playback compared to the 23 of the previous Gen 15 Pro.
Alright, so I'll quickly trim the hedge, then we'll talk about build quality and design. So just finished trimming the hedge, and now would be the perfect time to talk about build quality and design before I give the car a good wash.
Honestly speaking, from face value, there's no significant change, and as you can see, the only thing you'll notice is the slight increase in size, although Apple says the 16 Pro's titanium is stronger and more scratch resistant compared with that of the 15 Pro. Will I be testing that? Most definitely not. If you want to know more about durability, check out the video Jerry Rig Everything did. That aside, the one change you'll be excited about on the design and build side of things is the new machine chassis the 16 Pro comes with, and like mentioned when we talked about the batteries, when working in tandem with a graphite-clad aluminum substructure, your iPhone's thermal capacity will be maximized, negating the overheating issue we saw in the previous Gen 15 Pros. When it comes to the display, once again, the difference is barely noticeable, and comparing them side by side, you can see the 120Hz refresh rate works just as good on the 15 Pro, not forgetting the Super Retina XDR display that goes back at least 3 generations. The one change that I've liked about the 16 Pro's display is the ability of the screen dropping down to 1 nit, which is handy during those early mornings when you don't want to be blasted by too much brightness. The ceramic shield is also another good one, but I'd always recommend putting on a case or a screen protector unless you want your phone to look like my iPhone 13 Pro. Anyway, that aside, I'll quickly wash the car, then we can wrap it up with iOS 18 and Apple Intelligence.
I'm happy the car is finally done, and pretty much all the tasks I set out to do for the day are ticked.
Starting with iOS 18, it's been a good change for Apple, and even though it's a little late to the party, I like that I can now customize my home screen, hide apps if I choose to, set my charge limits, which helps with the battery life of your phone, plus so many other features I talked about at length in my iOS 18 video. In case you're wondering, both the 15 and 16 Pro comfortably handle these new features. If you'd like a deep dive, I'll link my iOS 18 video in the description box below. As for Apple Intelligence, Apple left a lot to be desired since most of the features will launch in December, trickling into 2025. For the few people who are running on the developer beta, you might have tried the cleanup feature in the Photos app, which is quite handy, although it's not something entirely new. We saw this a while back when Google launched Magic Eraser with their Pixel 6 phones in 2021. Another feature that Google launched with the Pixel 8 phones was Circle to Search, and Apple's version is called Visual Intelligence, but like mentioned earlier, we'll have to wait till December to be able to use it. Again, for emphasis, both the 16 and 15 Pro will comfortably run these features.
Okay, it's around 7:25, and before I have dinner, I'll give you guys my final thoughts. Well, it all comes down to what kind of user you are. If you're that kind of person who has deep pockets and craves the latest tech whilst also wanting some of that 20% boost in GPU, then the 16 Pro has your name written all over it. Its improved camera sensor also edges out the 15 Pro, especially if you care about reducing shadow lag when taking photos, although I doubt that would be reason enough for you to upgrade to the 16 Pro. Now, I get it. For some people, what I just mentioned sounds good, but here's where it gets interesting. The performance difference for everyday tasks is not as huge as you'd think. Yes, the 16 Pro feels faster when loading apps and handling intensive tasks, but in saying that, the 15 Pro is still no slouch
But there's a catch. If you're someone who tends to push your phone to its limits, the 15 Pro's heat management might be a problem, and the chances of it overheating are very high. So, is an upgrade really worth it? Now, if you're coming from something like the iPhone 13 Pro or the 14 Pro and want the absolute best iPhone experience right now, I wouldn't recommend or advise you to get the iPhone 16 Pro Max or even the Pro. A standard 16 would be just fine. But if you can contend with, a solid performance and can overlook the quirks the 15 Pro has, you'll be just fine. Plus, it's a lot more budget friendly. From my testing over the last 1 month and today, that's what I'll leave you with. Now, let me go and enjoy my dinner. Well, there you have it guys, that wraps up my day in the live and I hope you enjoyed and found this video helpful. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. To watch the 1-year review of the iPhone 15 Pro, check out this video. Until then, people of the internet, I'm signing out. See you on the next one.